Hey, this video is gonna be special because I have a FAANG resume writer who's gonna roast my resume. Not only it's gonna be fun, but I think you'll get a lot of tips and tricks and useful information that you can apply to your resumes for anyone who is looking for a technical job or is in IT to upgrade their resume or are not getting callbacks when you apply with your current resume. This is gonna be all about resumes, and I'm really excited to see what are the things that I missed out, as this is the resume that I used to apply to Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. So let's see what all mistakes I have made and let the roast begin. Hey. So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, my name is Jonaed Iqbal. I'm the founder of NoDegree.com and host of the No Degree podcast, where I interview people without college degrees, have them share their stories, just like your host right here. Now, I am a career coach, and I've written over 500 resumes. And when I talk about written, that means I've sat down with people for at least 2 hours and written their resumes line by line in front of them. And I've gotten people into the Amazons, Microsoft, Googles of the world. I've gotten people raises in the 30K to 120K range. And my clients are still getting interviews to this day. So I've seen it all and just realized that Rishabh's resume is actually in decent shape. However, we don't want a decent resume. We want a resume that stands out. So I am going to go into a hyper level of detail and go into things that you wouldn't necessarily think about.
Yeah. Those are some crazy numbers that you just said. So how long have you been doing this for?
Yeah, so I've been writing resumes since the end of 2019. And the funny thing is, the first person I did a resume for, I got lucky. They got a job at Amazon as a salesperson. So it was like
awesome.
But I've sat down with so many people, and if anybody wants to check my LinkedIn, I have over 230 recommendations at the bottom of my profile. So I'm not only throwing out those numbers, I have actually the stats to back it up.
Awesome. And yeah, like you got to check out the No Degree podcast. I've been in love with that show because I feel like it resonates so much with me. So I might be biased, but yeah, if you're looking into transitioning careers or getting into tech and you don't have a degree, there are so many careers out there that don't require a degree. So yeah, go check that out. I just wanted to plug that in. But yeah, so as you said, I volunteered to get my resume roasted, even though I feel pretty okay about my resume. And as you said, it's pretty decent, but we don't want decent resumes. So yeah, I'm gonna bring it up, and then you can tear it apart, call out on things that don't make sense. And yeah, it'll be a learning lesson for me. It'll be a learning, thing for the audience. And I think resumes are your first point of contact whenever you're applying for a job. So let's get into it.
All right, let's go. Okay, so I'm going to be highlighting things. But before I even go into the resume, we have to understand the recruiter's state of mind. The thing is, depending on the company, recruiters can get 50 to 500 plus applications. Now, entry level tends to be a lot more competitive because there are many more people competing. As you go higher up, there are fewer applicants. Now, I've talked to recruiter friends. 30 to 85% of resumes are sometimes not even qualified for the role. Like, there are people who have only internships and barely learned how to code, and they're applying for a staff developer, evangelist, or something like that. And then the other thing is, especially in the US and Canada, a lot of people from all over the world are applying. And sometimes companies have requirements for whatever reasons that they need people in certain locations, right? That They can't necessarily fly you out. If you're going to a lot of Canadian conferences, they can't have someone on the other side of the world because there's visa complications and all that. And then cost-wise too, right? They got to think about these things because these conference tickets get expensive, flying people out, the hotels. So these are things that they have to consider. Now, the thing is, the average time that a recruiter spends on the resume is 7 seconds. This is a little bit misleading because for most resumes, they only look at it for 2 to 3 seconds because they're like, next. Oh, Rishabh has a good resume. Let me spend an additional 20 to 45 seconds on it. So the fact is, first, you have to get past that 2 to 3 second check. Now, there's something called an ATS, the applicant tracking system. Typically, these systems will store your resumes. They can check the status of your resumes. Systems will rank your resumes. Recruiters will see a preview view of your resume. Because think about it, if 200 applications, do you want to open up 200 PDFs or do you want to open up the few of the good ones? And they can check whether there's a referral or source. So I just want people to have this idea, because you have to understand the game that you're playing. So this is a pretty good format, but you're someone technical, there are some issues. A lot of these applicant tracking systems, some of them will have issues parsing data if there are underlines, hyperlinks, and sometimes other colors. I generally say to keep it all black. Because think about it, in plain text, in Notepad, underlines don't exist. So therefore, with parsing, it may not pick up the section heading and it may not pick up all that. Now, I generally say don't have it like left to right, because when people are skimming, you want them to quickly be able to skim. So you don't want them looking left, right. You want them to go down. So generally I will say is put your name in the center and then center it, put your portfolio or your LinkedIn, GitHub. And obviously you put your location and your phone number. He doesn't have his phone number for privacy reasons. Now, your location is really important even for remote jobs, because I was talking to an AWS recruiter and they said the number one thing they look at is the location. Because when I was recruiting, I could only recruit from 15 cities, even though it was a remote job. They have to be within 2 hours driving distance, because you have to understand different states have different hiring laws, benefits laws, workers' comp laws. So these are things you have to understand. Now, I'm going to tell you something. You don't need LinkedIn, then LinkedIn.com. Just put LinkedIn.com. What else? It's not your Facebook. It's not your MySpace. Same thing. You don't need to put GitHub and then GitHub.com. Just put GitHub.com/that. All right. What else is it going to be? So it's more about those words are not needed, because it's clear, right? So you don't need this. And then the portfolio, it's like your website. You could put that, but a lot of times they know. But I'm going to tell you something. Someone on Reddit did an experiment and they had like a resume with like, Google, Microsoft, Amazon. And you know what? They found out all their links were Rickrolls and no one clicked the links and they still got interviews. So just realize that you want to make sure your resume speaks for itself. The hiring manager will look at this, but a lot of recruiters, a lot of them have not even held the roles. They don't know how to evaluate a portfolio to the level that a hiring manager can. So that's something you have to be really mindful of. It's something mistake. Yeah.
So do you suggest like having LinkedIn and then just having Rishabh Kumar 7 or whatever my username is?
Yeah, LinkedIn.com, your username. That's it, because they know that's your LinkedIn. Now I'm going to tell you something. This is from a cybersecurity perspective. I generally tell people to break all hyperlinks, because what's one of the easiest ways to hack a company? Apply with a fake resume, apply to malicious links, have people log in and compromise these accounts. So I generally say break the hyperlinks, have them copy and paste. Now, startups don't mind as much, but larger companies have protocols like this, right? You're not you're not told to click links. It's a good way to fish. You have to think of this mindset.
Definitely.
Now, you did this, right? Work experience, professional experience, whatever, technical experience. These are good. You just want to make sure you have the word experience. A lot of people will have like things I've done and they'll have funky titles. The ATS will look for the experience. They'll look for common titles to grab your experience. Now, let's go into that 2 to 3 second check. The first 2 to 3 seconds, they look at company, title, and dates. So I generally recommend bold the dates, because it's very important. They want to know, how long has this person been at the company? Do they stay at companies? So you really want to bold the dates over here. Now, I do something slightly differently. I put the title under the company, because then they're looking top to right. Twilio, staff, Google, technical solutions. Go again. This is minor issue. It just separates the company from the title, and sometimes for some systems, it autofills a bit more easily. Right now, because you're separating it out. Now look, these bullet points you don't need these bullet points in front, right? So don't put that. Then what will happen is, I'm going to tell you something. You see how you put implemented Terraform for infrastructure deployment for QA and dev team, reducing 60% testing time. I would have changed it to reducing testing time 60%. It reads a little better. But you see how you have one word on one line? I call that a hanging word.
I see.
So
Like
that's a waste of a
it's
word.
on a new line.
Yeah, it's a waste of a word. And think about it. It takes the recruiter a split second extra. So I say either shorten the line or add more meat to that line to make use of the second line. But if you move this to the left, got rid of the bullet points, all these would shift to the left, and then that would be one line. And then you see how you have it several times. Fixing those margins would help you a bit more on that.
Okay, yeah, like a lot of white space is wasted here and here. I see.
Yeah,
that is a good
point.
Then
I'm gonna tell you something. These are statements, not sentences, so they're not supposed to have periods at the end. However, no one cares about that.
Yeah.
The big thing is consistency. So if you use periods, you should use periods at the end.
Okay.
If you don't use periods, you should not use periods. Okay. I'm gonna tell you why I don't use periods. Sometimes the period is a character that forces the line to the next line, and it sucks when it's just a period. So that's the real reason I don't use periods.
Yeah.
Now, you have to be a little mindful. The open bullets, I tell people to use the standard bullets. So you want to use the black circle bullets because sometimes people use these stars or these check marks, and sometimes these systems have issues parsing the data. So just be mindful of that. Now let's go into more of the content. So you have delivered multiple talks and demos implementing Twilio APIs. Now, first of all, I'm going to ask you, what does multiple mean? Is it 2? Okay. Is it 10? Is it 20? What's the actual number?
It is more than 20 now, but yeah, I get the point.
Deliver 20 plus talks because now they're going to be like, oh, this guy has experience. And then you should go into on a little more detail because those are going to be keywords. So you could say on Twilio API integration, some other words, so they like get a little
Python
more Python
SDK,
yeah, put that because then they're gonna be like, oh, you have this experience, and then those are keywords like SDK, whatever. Now, again, how many blogs did you write? How much technical documentation? What did it cover? And then you may want to go out. How many people viewed the technical documentation? Right? How did it help the community? Research for events that are better suited for companies' growth. So now go into being the soul. What results did you get? How many times were your talks viewed? So if you could go into delivered multiple talks, you can go into how many times were your talks viewed?
Yeah.
Right? You could go into your YouTube channel, how many views it generated, because it sort of falls into that. And now, again, how many people did you mentor? Again, think about the numbers, because someone like you maybe have mentored 500 people. And now they know, like, oh, this guy has done it. It's something he's normally done. Now, collaborated with other companies. If it's not a privacy issue, you should go into what other companies did you collaborate on?
Yeah.
And then go into on events like Startup Days, what did it lead to? So the big thing that I'm seeing, that you've been you've been here at a year, I want to see more of the metrics. Now, look, you already have a good company, so they may call you back, but I always tell people, you're competing with someone's referrals. You're competing with their friend. You're competing with their previous coworker. You have to stand out on that. So the big thing that you're missing is this.
Okay.
Now, let's go to Google, right? Again, and I always tell people, look, you worked at Google, that really helps you, but you're also competing with other people who worked at Google, who worked at Microsoft, who worked at Facebook. How do you stand out? And I found a lot of times you'll still get a lot of interviews, but the things that I'm telling you will double to triple the amount of interviews. Right? So now it's in-depth understanding and underlying through troubleshooting and reproducing customer reported issues. Now go into how much time did you save customers? What size were these customers? Another thing some people say was successfully managed. I'm not a big fan of adjectives, and I'll tell you why. Recruiters, hiring managers see resumes all day. They see this flowery language. You're only going to have successes on your resume. Are you going to say unsuccessfully managed? No, it's going to be a success. So I tell people you show success through metrics and through time. So these customer issues, did it lead to account renewals? Did it lead to account growth? Did it lead to saving times? Did you decrease the number of calls because you developed documentation? Did you increase the speed at which things are solved? So you have to think about the resume as a performance review of your life. And then go into how you improve the Google Cloud products, right? Like, did you make it faster, quicker, better? That's what you're missing. Now let's go back to this. And then I always say, right align the dates too. Minor thing. It's just easier to look at. And then I'm going to tell you something. Consistency is important. You have MAR and then you have March over here. So you have March over here and then you have MAR. Yeah. Be consistent. I generally recommend use 3 letters for every month. And the reason being is that it's consistent. Yes. December to January is long. May to June is short. So that way you have consistency. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, no one's going to be like, oh, he's so consistent. But they're going to have this mindset, oh, this resume looks so professional. It looks so good. It looks so clean. And people judge you. Just like when you look at a painting. No one's going to say, oh, the colors mesh well. They're just like, oh, that looks nice. So that's something you want to be mindful of. Now, go into maybe the budgets of the projects. Like, how big are these projects that you're implementing to? What are the sizes of the clients? This is good, which served over 50 million plus connections weekly. I personally like saying 50 M plus. Okay. Just because it's quicker and you see it would get down to that one line. Yes, now, again, go into the impact of this. So the line structure I like is this, the adapted new architecture and implemented. So I generally say what you did, the context in which you did it, a verb, increasing, improving, achieving, exceeding, decreasing. Okay. Whatever you did. So that's generally my structure of the lines. I see. Now, participated, it's like, that's something you could probably put. It's like, okay, like, everybody kind of does that, right? Like, what's the impact? Were you able to, prevent massive disasters and all that stuff? Now, I'm not a big fan of this, even though it's correct, of saying by setting up monitoring tools. I usually say set up monitoring tools to analyze performance of cloud environments in like Datadog, whatever. But again, go more into the metrics. So you're listing the task, go into the impacts that you had on these clients. How much time are you saving? How much you're increasing their web speeds by? And again, ongoing development, maintenance of standard. What did it lead to? So in general, I'll write the college and then the location, and then I'll use the diploma on another line. Now, you don't need to go into the total time. I generally say just put in the graduation date. Now, in your case, it's okay, but sometimes, let's say some people took 6 years to graduate. Sometimes people might be like, I've seen some people judge, oh, why'd you take 6 years to graduate? Just put the graduation date. Now, if your graduation date is older than 10 to 12 years, you can remove it. The other thing is, if you had experience older than 10 to 12 years, I generally say take it out. Now, if you're going for more technical roles, I would say put your technical skills on top, because think about it. A lot of these jobs, you're a developer evangelist. They're asking for, hey, do you have experience with XYZ? Do you, if you need to be an expert on Python and you don't have Python, right? They need your, the SDKs and all that. Yes. Now, these projects, this is very good. I really like this. I would generally recommend if you have the GitHub link or the link to the project, that helps. They can go directly to the project. Yes. Now you can go into maybe a little more, like how many people have you been able to help? Yeah. The award winner is good. Again, how many blogs, all that. Now for more technical people, they'll list technical projects. Yes. And they'll go into what does it do? What the tech stack, maybe. The tech stack. So make sure if it was a more technical project, do that. Now I'm going to tell you something. This is very hyper level of detail. You see how you have blog and then you have this pipe symbol? Yes. The pipe symbol is a command in Linux for input output. Yes. That's why it causes issues on resumes, because some of these systems are Linux-based applications. And I've had it where I uploaded a resume with the pipe and then I removed the pipe. And when I had the pipe, it said, error, please upload candidate information manually. And I've had people, they had very good resumes, and all they did was remove the pipe symbol and italics. They immediately got more interviews. Okay. Yeah. And then one thing I'll tell you, this is very minor. I tell people, don't even put HTTPS. Like, they're just going to copy and paste. It's not even needed. Sometimes I like capitalizing the name. Again, just realize that these are very minor things. They're still the pipe is actual like a technical thing, but the other things are just more quicker, cleaner.
I see. And do you still so no hyperlinks, right?
Yeah, I generally just say avoid hyperlinks unless it's like
Okay.
a startup.
Yeah.
Now, instead of saying knowledge of web development, expertise, just put cloud technologies, list them. You know,
Okay.
Linux, you know, I would just say list them. You know, they'll ask you and they see it through your application. And I think this is good, the AWS Community Builder for that. But these certs, I would list them on the top. And then you see how it's taking up a lot of lines. I would have just put AWS, list the AWS. Then you could put others. Then, you know, it's not taking up that many lines. And then as you get more experience, you can still stay within the 2 pages.
Okay. So I know you said technical skills can go in the resume. Is this the good location? Because earlier I used to have them on page 1 at the top before even experience.
Yeah, I would put the tech skills on top, but here's how I would do it. Put the most relevant tech skills, because sometimes you have a lot of skills.
Yes.
Put the most relevant that are like, hey, these are useful. Put that at the top, because again, technical, a lot of times the first person who's looking at it is a technical recruiter. And as you work with technical recruiters, they have not worked in tech. They just recruit.
Yeah.
So they look for, Python, I need cloud, I need this, I need Linux, I need JavaScript. So
I see.
Then the other skills, I'll put the non-tech software, other things that you work on, right? Maybe you use Salesforce and all that. So tech, when I say put software on top, make sure it's tech software. Like if you put Office on top, it's more that you develop integrations for Microsoft Office, not that you use, Microsoft Office,
like
stuff like
everyday kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you said it should be as a list, so it not include sentences. So just going cloud technologies, AWS, Azure, GCP, programming languages, Python, JavaScript, whatever, right? In a list, rather than saying, hey, I have an expertise in this.
Yeah, because think about it. Do you think it means the same even without that?
Yes, it
and
does.
You have the certifications on top.
Yeah.
So it's more about, I always tell people, think about if you remove something from your resume, does it remove any value? Does it have the same value? If it has the same value when you remove it, remove it. But then there are certain things that if I remove your cloud certifications, then it's gonna really change things. So it's like that you need. Right? So that's how I would kind of go about. So it's like and then the other thing is, you know what's even more important than the resume? It's having this knowledge ready. Because you don't want to go in the interview and think about how many talks you did. So now your answer is, hey, I do multiple talks for Twilio on XYZ integrating these applications. Now if you say, hey, I've done over 20 talks that have been viewed over 10,000 times.
Yes.
Talking about XYZ, you see how one is a little stronger.
Yeah.
And it's actually the interview's job to ask you these details, but most of the time they don't. And they'll just think, oh, multiple. Okay, he probably did like 8 talks. They don't realize like, hey, you do 2 talks a month kind of thing.
Yeah. No, that is a great point. Awesome. And then for certifications, you said, man, because I have multiple, so have the vendor and then list all the certifications.
Yeah, so it really depends. So there's no right or wrong answer. It really depends your level. Because if you have 3 certifications, then you can list cloud. So I either say by section like cloud, right, listing it, or cybersecurity listing it. But in your case, you have several AWS, so I would put AWS, and then I'll put like other or DevOps or something. It depends. And then even your technical skills, you can list things like DevOps, web, all that. Now it really depends how many things you have. If you have a lot, you need more. If you have fewer, you can put it together. And it's also what type of jobs you apply to, so that it's easy for them to skim. Because the thing is, resumes are not read, they are skimmed.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Few other questions.
Yeah.
So on the first page, I have listed 4 of my experiences, right? I've had more experience in other job titles, even like I have one which was technical, but it was tech support. I have recently started removing it because I feel like it doesn't add much value at this point, based on the roles that I've had after that. How do you feel about that?
So here's the thing. I would personally keep it. So my rule is keep it within 2 pages. And you see how you do have a healthy amount of space on the
Yes.
second page.
Yes.
So, you have a healthy amount of space. If you do the things that I told you, it'll get your resume a little shorter. But I think, because here's the thing, this is a difference of you having 4 years of experience and you having that, just like that 5 to 7. So, and again, you don't have to go into a lot of bullet points, maybe 2 bullet points, but I do think it shows the progression. Like, hey, I've worked help support.
Definitely.
I know how to troubleshoot. And the other thing is, it does show some level of communication. Because you have to have patience and communications. And then the thing is, you interact with help desk teams.
Yes.
So it's like, hey, that's going to add value. One thing that I would say is I personally do a summary.
Okay.
And like a 4 to 5 line summary where I'll say, staff developer evangelist with a background in technical support, cloud technologies, blah, blah, blah. Right. So right off the bat, they know I'll say staff developer evangelist with 7+ years experience. So the goal is right off the bat, oh, this guy has 7 years of experience. He meets the minimum qualifications. Then in the middle, I'll say, then that's where you can kind of have like expertise in XYZ, YouTube channel, something quick. Now, here's something weird. You're not supposed to have I in the summary. It's like a weird thing. It's like a resume is written without a subject. So it's supposed to be written in like statement form.
Okay.
And then the final line. So the middle is like more keywords, like look at job description of what you're applying for, put those in like skilled in XYZ, build cross-functional relationship with vendors to enhance value, something like that. The last line I say is really helpful because then you can say seeking X type of role. So now they know, hey, maybe you want to go back to cloud. So you could say seeking a cloud evangelist role. And then they know, hey, he's looking for XYZ. And this really helps if you're doing transitions. Maybe you want to go into product. So now you could say seeking a cloud product manager role, seeking a product manager role to support cloud technologies for a company in the XYZ space. And then that's how you can have like a resume that is customized to an area. And you can have several different versions.
Yes, definitely. That is a great tip. So you do recommend having a summary on the top?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little controversial. Some people say you don't. It's not the most important thing, but it does help because the first line just tells how many years experience right off the bat. The last line helps what you're seeking, and it's the easiest thing to customize because customizing other parts of the resume causes lines to go shift. It shifts these things around, whereas the summary is a block, and it's the easiest thing to customize. So I think it helps. Now, here's the thing. If they don't care about it, they're just going to skip it over, right? And they'll go straight to your experience.
Awesome. And okay, so I've got the answer to the tech support role. Before that, I was a placement student at the same company. Should I have that? That can be considered as an internship. Yeah.
Okay. I think so. Look, as long as it stays within 2 pages, that's my thing.
I see.
Now, in some rare cases, I have seen 3-page resumes. And it's funny, a lot of tech people have like 4 to 7, but it's just because they slap together a document and they don't spend time on it and they list everything. What I always tell people is the first page has to absolutely sell you.
I see.
Right? If they don't like you in 1 pages, the second page is not going to save you. And then definitely like the 2 to 3. If they don't like you in 2 pages, like the third page is not going to save you. The times I tell people to go to 3 pages is, let's say they were a contractor, 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, and they have that, or they just have a huge body of work. But again, it's that 10 to 12 years experience. That's a very rare scenario. Like only like 1 to 2% of resumes I've ever done have gone to 3 pages.
Okay. Because in my mind now I have maybe a summary, but definitely technical skills on top, and then my experience. But since I have like 6 jobs that I have to list, some of the experience will be on first page and then some will be on the second. How do you feel about that?
That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Because the thing is, look, they're really going to hire you for the last three roles. Ooh, the other thing is you got a promotion.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. So since resumes are skimmed, they may think you had 2 jobs. Oh, so what I would do is list the company, ECI Software Solutions,
Yeah.
List the total time at the company, April 29th to Jan 2022.
Yes.
And then list the time at each position.
I see. Because the tech support role was also at this job, at this company.
Yeah. So now
2
think
times
about it.
more. Yeah.
So now think about it. First of all, it looks like, oh, this guy has like several different jobs. Whereas, hey, he held 3 roles and he's willing to grow within an organization. Yes, he had a short role, but overall, it's not a history of it. But you see, when you're quickly looking at it, think about it. Someone's 4:30 p.m. on a Friday afternoon. Do you think they're going to go? They're just going to be like, oh, I need someone who has longevity. And you may lose out on that. But the thing is, that's an asset. So I would have absolutely put it.
Okay. Awesome. I think a follow-up to that is, so this point would show like a journey that I've held at a company for like 4 years. I only spent 4 months at Google.
Yeah.
I know having Google on my resume really helps.
Yeah.
But I've heard people say that it's a red flag if you stay at a company for less than 6 months. What are your thoughts on that?
It is. However, what I tell people is you cannot change your background.
Yes.
All you can do is own it.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, I think, yes, it hurts you in some aspects, but I think overall the power of Google helps you more than it hurts you.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, when it does come up in an interview, you can go into, hey, you know what? I realized that was not what I wanted to do and go in my career.
Yes.
So despite Google being one of my dream companies, I realized that I wasn't doing the work that was fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's in the future, if you're going for other companies, now you could say, I know what type of role I'm going for, and yours is the type of role. I'm being very strategic. So you had that learning experience, and then you have the previous history where you stayed 4 years. So it's not like 5 months Google, 5 months Amazon. It's not a historical thing. And you stayed 1 year at your current company, and you're probably going to stay for some more time. So that's why I really want you to show that 4 years experience where you grew. Just say that this was something that you already did. You're not passionate about. You wanted to go somewhere different. And you felt like your skills and your passions were not being fully utilized. So while you could have held the job, it just didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense, and it took that step. I see. Yeah.
It's all about the story.
Great.
You know, I always tell people it's all about the story, and it's you being confident in the story.
Yes.
And here's the thing: some people may not like it. The fact is, you can't please everybody. You know, you write blogs. There's some people who absolutely love it. Thank you. And then there are other people like, hey, you need to do this. You need to do this. The fact is, you can't please everybody, but you can own your story, show how you learn from your story, and show how you know what you want to do going forward.
Definitely. I agree with that. No, that was awesome. Yeah, I think I have my concerns answered. But do you have anything else that you want to point out on my resume that you want to change, or any other things you want to take a jab at?
No. I mean, that's it. Now just realize, like, I gave a lot of info to you.
Yeah.
It takes time to write the resume, and I'm gonna tell you, it's a very painful process. Even when I did my own resume, I had my friend help me because it's so painful to go into it. But it's one of those things you have to do. Because it just makes things easier. It's so much easier selling yourself during the interview. Because here's the thing, even if you get an interview, they probably have printed your resume 5 minutes before the interview. So the fact is, you want your accomplishments to stand out. One thing I'll say is,
definitely
the biggest accomplishment should either be the top 2 bullet points or the last one, because those are the ones that they're most likely to read. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm pretty sure you've been on interviews like, hey, do you have experience with this SDK? And it's like, dude, it's like right there.
Yeah,
like, what
right
are you talking
there
about?
On the resume. Yeah, I definitely have been there. But yeah, that is another thing that I guess I can be strategic about, is having like really good points about my career on the top, and then also something at the end, so that, especially I think with 2 pages, in the middle stuff is gonna be skimmed past. Yeah. That is a great point. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And just realize that, like, I've written so many resumes. This is like, I'm still learning new things, And the advice I gave you is more for technical roles.
Yes.
There are other types of roles that have slightly different things. But again, you have already a decent resume and you have good companies, but this just makes it a lot easier and improves your chances so much more. And I've seen a lot of like developer advocates. I've done like the developer advocate, developer evangelist. It's like they're not highlighting how many people they impact, how many people saw it, how much they grew their community, how much they grew that. And that's what you're getting hired for.
Yeah, exactly. That is a great point. Yeah. I didn't even realize that I don't have any metric for my like Twilio job.
Yeah.
Being said that, if I want to apply for like a developer advocate role, I think that is really necessary. But great. Yeah. This was great.
And you got to put your YouTube channel as a project.
Yes, I have to do that.
Yeah, put that, because that's the unique selling point that sets you apart. Again, because for developer advocates, evangelists, they look at that. That's like, hey, that's another medium that we can build a community around. So I would really highlight that.
For sure. No, great suggestions, great tips. I love this. But I don't want to keep you, going, because we have already hit that 36-minute mark. I didn't even realize we spent that much time. But yeah, I want you to give the opportunity to share your socials, share the resume stuff if someone wants to reach out to you to get their resume built up. So go ahead.
Yeah, so you can find me, so Jonaed, last name Iqbal. You can easily find me on LinkedIn. I have about 41,000 followers. So if you found me on this, just send me a personalized request like, hey, I saw your resume review with Rashad. Check out the No Degree podcast, where our episode is coming up soon, where I interview people without college degrees, and they really go into their life's journey of how they got to where they are. And I've had people who worked at all types of, FAANG companies and tech companies, all that. Twitter is No Degree DOTCOM. I'm pretty active. I'm on, doing a lot. My TikTok is at No Degree. Now, I do have a resume course. It's over 4 hours long, and it goes into even more things. Like, yes, we covered this in 36 minutes, but there's a lot more. It has 15 sample resumes from different careers. It's at procareeracademy.com. Right now, it's $147. I may raise the price in the future, but for now, it'll stay that price. But it also goes into LinkedIn profile optimization, salary negotiation, interview strategy, application strategy, how to network, because all these things impact your job search. And I wanted to make it in an affordable way, just because now I tend to work with more director and senior level people, just because I have limited time. So I made the course so that people could do it themselves.
That is awesome. Yeah, I'll have the links to everything, the podcast, the course, and your socials in the description. So if people want to check it out, the links will be in the description. But thank you. This was great. I got some wonderful tips and great advice, and I'm definitely gonna sit down maybe for a few weeks and make these changes.
No, you know what? Let's do this. How about you and I sit down? We'll do it, and then we'll show the resume before the after.
That is great. Let us know in the comments if you're hyped up for this, because this is being planned right on the video recording that we are doing right now. But yeah, let's do it. I'm down for that.
I'm excited, and let's see what happens after.
Thank you so much. Again, thank you for joining, and yeah, I'll see you on Twitter or LinkedIn.
Yeah, you're welcome. This was fun.
Cheers.